Hello everyone, welcome to the 140 Literary and Jury Charge Selection. We're going to start out with a reading from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, okay? And this is on Become More Patient. All right, here we go. Ready? The quality of patience goes a long way toward your goal of creating a more peaceful and loving self. The more patient you are, the more accepting you will be of what is, rather than insisting that life be exactly as you would like it to be. Without patience, life is extremely frustrating. You are easily annoyed, bothered, and irritated. Patience adds a dimension of ease and acceptance to your life. It's essential for inner peace. Becoming more patient involves opening your heart to the present moment, even if you don't like it. If you are stuck in a traffic jam, late for an appointment, opening to the moment would mean catching yourself building a mental snowball before your thinking got out of hand, and gently reminding yourself to relax. It might also be a good time to breathe, as well as an opportunity to remind yourself that in the bigger scheme of things, being late is small stuff. Patience also involves seeing the innocence in others. My wife Chris and I have 2 young children, ages 4 and 7. On many occasions, while writing this book, our 4-year-old daughter has walked into my office and interrupted my work, which can be disruptive to a writer. What I have learned to do most of the time is to see the innocence in her behavior rather than to focus on the potential implications of her interruption. I won't get my work done. I'll lose my train of thought. This was my only opportunity to write today, and so forth. I remind myself why she is coming to see me, because she loves me, not because she is conspiring to ruin my work. When I remember to see the innocence, I immediately bring forth a feeling of patience, and my attention is brought back to the moment. Any irritation that may have been building is eliminated, and I'm reminded once again of how fortunate I am to have such beautiful children. I have found that if you look deeply enough, you can almost always see the innocence in other people, as well as in potentially frustrating situations. When you do, you will become a more patient and peaceful person, and in some strange way, you begin to enjoy many of the moments that used to frustrate you. Good advice there. All right, I've got some legal terms. And then I'm going to read you the paragraph, okay? All right, let me just mark my watch. 8.5. All right. Here we go. All right, so you're going to hear real property, easement, tenancy, encumbrances, conveyed, deed, ownership, and the brief for that is OIP, specified, common, abstract, plat, liens, title, and conveys. All right, here we go. Ready? Real property is the land and everything attached to it or growing from it. The ownership of real property is called title. Title to real property may be conveyed from one person to another through an instrument called a deed. Liens, encumbrances, and a history of the ownership of real property are found in the abstract. The map showing the division of the land into lots is called the plat. An easement conveys the right for land to be used for some other specified purpose. For example, utility companies may exercise their easement rights. There are two types of ownership of land and property: tenancy in common and joint tenancy. All right. I've got a small paragraph here, and I'm going to give you the words, and then I'm going to read you the paragraph one time at 140, and then I'm going to pick it up to 160, okay? All right, so the first time will be at 140. Okay. All right, so you're going to hear womanized, deterioration, preserve, process, exposed, undergone. Okay, here we go. Ready? Womanized lumber is lumber that has gone through a process that preserves it from rapid deterioration when it is exposed to cement or to the ground. After the womanizing process, pine will last as long as redwood. When the builder wants to use wood that will stand up under such conditions, he should consider womanized lumber. In areas where redwood is more expensive because of freight costs, womanized lumber is the answer. Okay, so now I'm going to read the same paragraph but at 160. Okay, here we go. Womanized lumber is lumber that has gone through a process that preserves it from rapid deterioration when it is exposed to cement or to the ground. After the womanizing process, pine will last as long as redwood. When the builder wants to use wood that will stand up under such conditions, he should consider womanized lumber. In areas where redwood is more expensive because of freight costs, womanized lumber is the answer. Okay, now I'm going to go back down to 140. Womanized lumber is lumber that has gone through a process that preserves it from rapid deterioration when it is exposed to cement or to the ground. After the womanizing process, pine will last as long as redwood. When the builder wants to use wood that will stand up under such conditions, he should consider womanized lumber. In areas where redwood is more expensive because of freight costs, womanized lumber is the answer. Okay, and womanized is spelled W-O-L-M-A-N-I-Z-E-D. All right, I've got an article here on earthquakes. So you're going to hear seismology, seismograph, geological, volcanoes, Japan, South America, dislocation, gigantic, earthquake, crust, propounded. All right, here we go. The crust of the earth is constantly changing. Gigantic forces are continually at work, reshaping the rocks of which the crust consists, moving them, bending them, and cracking them. We are not aware of this gradual process until the day an earthquake occurs. Earthquakes are a common occurrence. In some areas of the world, such as California, South America, and Japan, hundreds of quakes take place each day. but they are so minor that they are not even felt. The study of earthquakes is called seismology. The instrument to measure the intensity of an earthquake is the seismograph. The great majority of earthquakes are caused by rapid movements or dislocations of the Earth's underground structure. Several theories have been propounded regarding the reason for these dislocations occurring. Many scientists feel that quakes are a result of a natural geological process that interplays with the force of gravity. Certain earthquakes can be directly associated with volcanoes. The science of seismology is relatively new, since changes in the Earth's crust take place over thousands of years. Scientists have difficulty determining cause and effect. And we are here in California, so we experience that all the time. But I have to say, I would much rather be in earthquake territory than some of the other disasters that people have to go through, like tornadoes. I don't think I could handle that. So those of you in Missouri and Kansas, I give you props, because I think that would just scare me like no other. All right, here we go. We're going to, I'm going to read to you the court's ruling. Okay, here we go. We're talking about a man here of more than just average intellect. This is a man who deals with the law day in and day out. Certainly he knows what constitutes a legitimate agreement for entering into some kind of loan. He knows that if he died, for example, that may not be sufficient to cause his estate to obtain, upon a divorce, any kind of compensation for that kind of loan, or for his parents to collect upon the sale of any piece of property. I think the fact that he failed to get this document in writing, this alleged agreement of his failure to come up with any kind of a second trust deed, or make any kind of written record at all regarding this transaction, requires that the court see it for what it is, and that is a gift, pure and simple. And I think that the court clearly makes that finding. These are issues that routinely come before this court in dissolution matters, and I take a fairly hard line when it comes to people alleging that past transactions were loans versus gifts, because it's an easy allegation to make that a transaction prior was a loan versus a gift, because in reality, what happens generally is one party is going to be paying half the debt, and the other party is going to be relieved of the debt from his or her relatives, from whom the money was originally received. So consequently, I take a fairly conservative approach because it's an easy allegation to make. The court likes to see corroborating circumstantial evidence indicating to the court that, in fact, we do have an obligation rather than a gift. I don't require a promissory note, and I don't require a second trust deed. If that was the case, then the issue would easily resolve itself, and we wouldn't be here at trial. The court recognizes that oftentimes with family business transactions, oftentimes they're not reduced to promissory notes and deeds of trust simply because we are dealing with family members. That's probably not the best business practice, but it does happen with frequency. In this particular case, the court has a check dated January 21st, 2006, made out to both of the parties in this case in the amount of $120,000, signed by Mr. Mason Sr. with the designation loan. It appears to the court that the designation on the check was executed or signed by the same person under the evidence code. Obviously, I have the right to review signatures and handwriting for my own individual comparison. It does appear to be the same, and it does appear to be the same color of ink. It does appear to be the same pen that was used to denote loan, or similar pen to denote loan versus the signature. Also, I have the letter allegedly written on June 1st, 2008. That does carry less evidentiary weight because we don't have an envelope with a postage mark on it. This kind of evidence can be fabricated fairly easily. I'm not saying it is, and I'm not saying it isn't, but it is subject to fabrication. However, I have a second check dated May 30th, 2008, in the amount of $11,030, and that's been explained by Mr. Mason. The burden of proof here is by preponderance of the evidence. This allegation concerning the loan is attempted to be rebutted by the FHA transaction and the gift letter. I'm assuming that there was a gift letter that was submitted, and I accept the testimony of the witness, Haley Robertson. But again, relying on common sense, that doesn't necessarily characterize, in reality, the transaction that occurred between the Masons. It may well be a case of fraud against the government, but it doesn't necessarily rebut the allegation made by Mr. Mason that the transaction was a loan. The court finds by the preponderance of the evidence that this obligation of $120,000 is, in fact, a loan to the community. The court so finds in favor of the plaintiff. Okay. I'm going to start an article here. If we don't get through it, we'll finish it in the next class. And this is on the plight of the grizzly. Okay. In the growing controversy over how to save the great bears, all too little has been said about why. All right, here we go. This is from the Sports Illustrated magazine. Bees, spiders, and snakes have proved more deadly in a statistical way, but only the great bear, the most formidable beast in the New World, has been able to make meat of humankind in direct confrontations. So as we began to settle in Big Bear ranges, clearing the places of grizzlies was imperative if we wanted a nice place to live. This has been largely accomplished. About 100,000 grizzlies once roamed the West. Now, only 500 to 700 survive, mostly in northern Montana and northwestern Wyoming. There are still up to 25,000 animals in western Canada and Alaska. In regard to our relationship, grizzlies haven't changed much since we began routing them. They remain determined to pursue and defend their own self-interest by violent means if necessary, and generally don't give a damn about what we want. There is no reason to expect that they can be persuaded to act differently than they always have. But our opinions about grizzlies have changed. In 1990, we decided that the grizzlies remaining in these states should be preserved. And ever since, bureaucrats, scientists, and private wildlife organizations have been feuding about why the bears are disappearing and who is to blame. The Park Service has been accused of mismanagement, principally because some years ago it closed open pit garbage dumps in Yellowstone National Park, where many grizzlies had fed for more than 70 years. The Forest Service was charged with being more interested in ranchers, timber companies, and oil drillers than in grizzlies. And state game agencies caught heat for not enforcing laws to protect them. As a result, we have come to appreciate that there are few things in the world so difficult to preserve as a wild grizzly bear. The biological problems are relatively minor, but the political, social, and economic problems are exceedingly complex. Several recent happenings suggest these difficulties. And I will stop there and we'll finish up in the next class with this article. Okay, so that concludes our literary and jury charge for the 140 class. Have a great day.